to say the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to order the September 21st, 2023 Village Board meeting. 3, roll call shows all trustees present. Staff is present, except for Ally, who has been excused, and Attorney Mike. 4, agenda changes. Are there any? Okay. 5, consent agenda. A, September 7th, 2023 regular board meeting minutes. There are no licenses or permits. And C, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, we would need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda.
A second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 6, we will open the public hearing. A, street construction improvements for reconstruction of alley number 3. If anyone wishes to speak, please state your name and address.
Kim Migalski, 331 South Mill Street. I received a letter about the street construction for Alley 3, and in there it said the village is going to use its special assessment to basically have us 8 people pay for the project. And in there, if you read for the special assessment to be used in the village, it says that in order for, I have to receive a special benefit from the work. There's only 3 driveways on that whole alley, but there's 8 properties. So I don't understand. I guess I don't understand how a special assessment can be put against, you know, like broken up 8 ways. But I don't know if it's fair to punish the other 3, but that's what it says right in the state statute, that you have to benefit. And I don't have any benefit from it. No benefit from the alley at all. I don't need it. I have my driveway that goes to my backyard. So I guess I don't understand how that could be levied against my property when right in the state statute it says I have to receive a special benefit from it for using it. So I don't know if like somebody's just, I don't know, using their own words to twist something around or whatever, but it's pretty black and white if you read it, that it says that. And if it's written in there, that's the law. So I'm just saying if we go forward with it and the work is done and there's a lien put against my thing, then I will be getting a lawyer. So I basically have the state on my side, so I guess take with it what you can. That's all I got.
Anyone else have any comments?
Hello again. Everybody's heard from me like 3 times. I guess back to my comments is, it's, you know, it's in poor shape. It's been in poor shape. It's put on the back burner for so long. I do not believe that we should burden the whole cost of it. I really don't. I mean, it's been neglected for so long. Like everybody says, it gets to the point and then all of a sudden something else comes up and it gets put down. But I believe something's gotta get done so we can get plowed out, so we can, you know, get plowed out and get back on with, you know, things. But I don't believe we should have to pay the 100%. Just my idea.
Thank you. Any other comments?
So, Nathan, I had some phone calls. Could you maybe go over where we are in the process and what's left? So that way the people that are here still understand, you know, where exactly we're at. in just a second, I wanted to address a couple of things. One is, with you, I understand your concern. I had an assessment in my neighborhood before, right, like the year before I got on the board, and it was for a street that was 2 blocks away from my house, but it just happened to be part of my neighborhood. So, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not, you'd have to ask the gentleman over here, but, my understanding at that point is they're pretty loose on the benefit portion of it. I mean, like I said, it's literally 2 blocks away from my house, and it's one street that connects another street in my neighborhood, but it doesn't even, the traffic wouldn't even go by my house. And I still had to pay for the road, so I understand your concern, and I understand, you know, what you're reading. You know, if maybe the council can address it, but, and then, you know, that's all I had to say to that, I guess. But yeah, if you could go over where we're at and where we end up and how we get the final number and stuff, that would.
So as of right now, the construction estimated date is next Friday, potentially for that one.
Yeah, in the next couple weeks.
Right. So once the construction is fully completed, they'll send us an updated estimate, which will probably be pretty close to that amount that was in there. Normally they, our engineer always overestimates so that it's never increased. And then once we get the numbers back, then we'd bring it to another board meeting. The same residents would get a notice of that final special assessment. And that would be the time when the board could apply any funds that they wanted to reduce down the cost of it, potentially, extend out the amount of years, and they would apply the percentage rate for the interest if you decided to defer it over that amount of years that they choose.
So the important part is that, I think in that is that the true number isn't, everything right now is an estimate until the job is actually done. And then the true number is provided by the contractor. And then the village is gonna look at, us being the representatives of the village, will look at what we can do to lessen the burden of the citizens, and we try to be as fair as possible with whatever funds are available. But I mean, I had some discussion with the lady behind you earlier this week, and I said, you know, we still have to be fair, even though it's a smaller amount, because it is comparative to you know, some of the other construction projects and some of the other assessments we've done. You know, we still have to try to say, well, we couldn't just say, well, it's a smaller amount, let's just pay for the whole thing, in my opinion, because that wouldn't be fair to the people who just had theirs done, and we contributed a percentage, you know, of what we could. If that percentage was, say, 15 or 20%, right, that we could kind of loosen the burden or lessen the burden. It wouldn't be fair if we went into years and said, well, let's do 80%, you know, because we can't do 80% on the next one either. Even if, you know, the numbers are small, from my perspective, I think that is the best way to look at it. So we don't, every one of them's different. Every one of them we treat independently, but we try to be as fair as possible with what's available to us. So yeah, you'll have to talk to, if you want to talk to legal.
Yeah, did you want me to speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Briefly? I haven't looked, I don't know what your specific property is. I looked at this map. The different attorney's been primarily handling it. But generally when it comes to special benefits, if a roadway, in this case an alley, that's adjacent to your property is being redone, there's going to be some sort of special benefit, even if you don't have a driveway that connects directly to it. There are so many things that get taken into account to determine what a special benefit is. Things like property value, access to utilities, access to other services, and so that they can be really, has been generally really broadly construed. And so, I don't think the village would be leveraging a special assessment if they didn't believe that there was a benefit to the properties there. but I can't speak to your specific property, I just don't have enough information.
It seems like the gist of the way it's written is to try to distribute from anybody who's going to see any, distribute the cost to anyone at all who's going to see any difference in their property at all. And that's why I say it seems very broad based on my experience too.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Number 7, pre-registered citizens to be heard.
That was the two that spoke already.
Okay. Did you have any other comments? Okay. Number 8, committee reports. A, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Planning and zoning met, and we went over kind of the comp plan, and kind of a kickoff meeting on some of the things that we liked about the village, and some of the opportunities and issues that we see in the village. Talked a little bit about potential zoning changes in order to try to make more of our houses in line with our current ordinances, because a lot of them are non-conforming. So looking at that and some subdivision potential changes as well. Other than that, we had the variance on the agenda, which we'll be discussing here in a little bit.
We also discussed Fox Valley development. Did we?
Oh, yeah. The industrial park, there's an expansion on SCP.
Yeah,
was
it's
approved.
just an expansion. I just had to pull my agenda materials back over. Yeah, just an expansion.
Anything else?
We had a public safety meeting. Was that this last Thursday? Was that going to be included?
It isn't on the
Somehow
agenda.
it was not on there.
Okay, is there,
Chris could talk about it during her
okay. And I-
report. meeting.
Or we could put it on next week's.
That's fine too.
Yeah,
My
that'd be
fault, I
great.
didn't put it on
Okay.
there.
Are there going to be minutes? I think, because Shauna, were you taking minutes?
I have the notes. I gave them
Yeah.
to.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Because I had to leave early.
Yeah, I
apologize.
gave Jim the update. So
Okay.
you know.
Okay, we'll go to 9, unfinished business from previous meetings. A, discussion and possible action on special assessment resolution for Douglas Street.
This is the resolution for basically intention to specially assess for Douglas Street for the project that the county's gonna be doing.
Did we get numbers?
Those are being put together by our engineer.
For the engineering
The
report.
cost?
It was approved in the last meeting.
Yeah,
I think it was 30,000 that the county came up with.
so we're basing this resolution on what figures?
You're not basing it on any
Nothing.
figures. Typically, when the intent to specially assess, you don't necessarily have to have the preliminary engineering report. That has to be sent out though with the notice for the public hearing that gets scheduled. This resolution is just intention to specially assess and setting up the public hearing.
So we don't make any decisions on the payments
Correct.
and at this
Correct.
time?
So,
We just need the preliminary approved.
correct, and then the plan for the public hearing, at this point, we'd probably suggest the second meeting in October.
So my only concern on this is that that one was much higher per property, if they're only being 2 properties.
Right.
And we are saying that they can do it in 4 payments.
Right, that is able to be changed along with the amounts. That would be just what's sent out,
Okay,
and that's kind of our
so,
template.
okay. I just want to make sure that we're not locking ourselves into 4
No.
payment. I mean,
Correct.
some of these are
like
Yeah.
30 grand.
Yeah.
So,
No, I believe we can extend it out to around 10 years, so,
I just wanna make sure we're not locking ourselves, cause
right,
30 grand at 4 payments is a lot.
right. The final special assessment is when it's locked in,
Okay.
so.
So we would need a motion. Right?
Yep.
On R-18-23?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve R-18-23 Douglas Street preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment police powers under section 66.073 1B Wisconsin statute.
Second?
Roll call. Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on administrator's review process. Did everyone look at all the examples that were sent out 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And did anyone specifically like any of them that were sent? I actually like the Village of Swamico. I thought it was to the point. It covered what we need to probably cover, unless someone else has other ideas. It didn't seem like too bad of a one, unless somebody likes something else. There was McFarland and Cedarburg, and then ours, which I did not like at all.
Did you have an opinion on? Okay.
I think ours would, it's not really meant for the administrator as much as it's more meant for department heads.
Yeah, that's the one we used to
The
add.
board perspective is just
Mhm.
hard on that one.
Will you still do some sort of evaluation from the department heads like we've done in the past?
I mean,
Or feedback, I should say?
if you guys want, we did do one, just because I was curious on what their opinions were,
Mhm.
of basically that same outline for
Okay.
mine. And then they filled it out as if they were the manager, just to kind of get what, I was curious on feedback and ways I can improve. So, if you guys want those copies, I can give them to you.
Well, personally, I appreciate those. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but it's, looking over all of them and taking everything into consideration. I would appreciate that. I'm fine with the Swamico one. It was pretty, to the point.
What does everyone else think?
I like
Use that one and just change.
I liked the Swamico one as well.
So then when will we be doing these?
And just
When do they need to be done by?
It's up to you guys. I would try to get it out to you as soon as possible. just-
Okay,
And then we could probably do it at one of the October meetings.
is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
And then I believe those got sent to our attorney
Yeah, in the past, that's
in the
what we did.
past and calculated for that meeting. Are you okay with that?
We're tabulating for the,
Just calculating the numbers. It's taking all the numbers from all the individual reports and getting an overall number.
Yeah.
sure,
Or any
It's
comments?
I can do
It's a
that.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You're just
I've calculated and I can, yes.
You're just the neutral person who's not staff and
Sure,
not board
that's
member.
fair.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Ashley did that last year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So,
she
yeah,
did.
I'll
It's
take
just
it on
math.
this year. Okay. Yep, we can do that.
All right.
I'd prefer late October just so there's a little more time.
I would even say even that first November meeting wouldn't be terrible, just because, I mean, I know you need it for budgeting and all that, but
Well, I mean,
Well, if we could have the numbers calculated for the first meeting of November, so we turn them in before that meeting,
Yeah.
so he has time to.
I don't care when you guys do it. every year when we go through budget, I set an amount and I don't let you guys give me more than that. So,
I mean,
So-
like, to do the meeting, like, for your review, I guess is what I'm saying. It's
We
more like a
should-
number.
Get those, if you're gonna get those out to us this next week and to the department heads.
you want
Correct.
those ones for the department heads, or do you want the ones that I just got from the department heads?
Oh, you do have some from the
Yeah.
department heads already?
Yeah, because I
Oh,
was doing that on my own. Yeah.
okay. So then how soon do we get them to our attorney? We should have a deadline.
So if we get
We're not gonna
next week-
discuss it till November 2nd? Correct? At that meeting, so he should have some time to look at this? What gives you some good time? 2 weeks ahead?
Yeah, if I had
The
to, that would
15th,
be,
yeah.
that would be fine.
By October 15th?
Well, the 16th is Monday, so.
16th is Monday, yeah. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, we'll say October 16th. Right, then we will move to 10, new business. A, discussion and possible action on variance for V-1-23.
So the variance should be in your packet. Basically, the zoning board of appeals looked at the state statutes and basically our advice to them was that this was a determination that was kind of up in the air based on the lot size and the uniqueness of the lot and the constraints they currently have and the potential safety benefit it creates. So they decided to grant the variance for the front and rear setbacks of the parcel with requiring the landowner to put in a driveway that would obviously be on Lakeview and the driveway would face east basically. That way it's not coming directly out into the road where the setback was reduced down, so that you don't have an issue where if the village in the future wants to put in sidewalk, that this person doesn't have a place to park their car in their own driveway. So that was the ruling of the zoning board of appeals.
It doesn't say Lakeview on here, right?
It does not.
That's good, because it's Lake Shore.
No.
Well, it's like, I'm like, then we need to correct it if it does say that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I talked to Judy and Eric, and I talked to them earlier today, and this is what they were looking for. So I had them look at the numbers of the description to make sure that that the final outcome was what they expected and what they were looking for.
We would need a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve R-18-23.
No,
No.
No?
the variance.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. Wait.
You meant to say
Wrong one.
V-1.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve B-1-23.
I'll second. Or let Bonnie have it.
All right, so there's one back.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on SAP program.
So, the packet, you should have basically a summary page. There's two things we gotta kind of vote on here, which one would be approving the participation points for EMS and the fire department, and then the payments for prior service. Last night, Jack and I attended the Hortonville Town Hall, and they kind of got the first shot at that, and they agreed to doing the tiered one, which would basically, the longer you were there, you'd get more paid for in that first year to help those who are really near retirement get caught up, so they actually receive their benefit from the state, and that way it works out for them. For us, what that means for us is we would have to pay, estimated next year would be around $30,511 in total. That includes the fees and then the normal yearly allotted amounts. And the town would pay $16,700 something. So, and then the next year that drops down substantially, down to $23,000 for the village, and then down to 11, and then 9 is where it would basically go. It'd be around that flat rate, except it does increase potentially yearly by a small portion by what the state is willing to match. And obviously their fees might change over the years, but basically funding this, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this sooner, Act 12 that came out, that gave municipalities a little more of the shared revenue. And within that shared revenue, there's guidelines that the monies are supposed to go towards public safety, so that would be fire, police, transportation, and public works, but not towards administration. So basically what this would do is we'd allocate those funds coming in, so there wouldn't really be an impact on the village's budget because of that coming out this year. So we wouldn't tax for it because of the fact the state is giving us about $92,000 extra. There is no increase in tax by us paying this $30,000.
Okay.
So out of that 92, 30,000 of it would be utilized for the fire department, and then by next year it drops down to 23, and so basically it's kind of the perfect scenario from when this was passed, because otherwise we would be kind of having to scratch our heads on how to cut other budgets in order to afford this. So it kind of worked out.
Are there any questions?
And I think Jack's here if you have questions on the point systems that they have.
I do have a question on the point system. Are you responsible for all the paperwork? That's a lot of
The
paperwork.
department is, yeah. We get the numbers from Nathan.
Okay, because it's a lot to keep track of.
We do it already.
Do you? Oh, okay, okay.
So I was looking down when you were talking at the last point here, trying to figure out which lines we were looking at, and then I heard you say public works and not management. So are we thinking of expanding this program into public works?
No.
Okay.
So Act 12 of the 92,000, there's designated funds it's supposed to go to for the state. So
Okay, so
it's
you're just
police-
detailing where.
Right, I was just
Okay.
listing out the
All
areas
of
where
a
you
sudden I
can
heard,
apply.
yeah, not
Sorry.
management and public
No.
works and everybody else, I'm like, well, we didn't just go, okay.
Right.
Okay.
I guess, then would these other departments be receiving money
Well,
from that 92,000?
well, kind of. I mean, those funds we apply towards items, like some of it's we're planning on for GIS for the public works side. So there is increases that'll go there, but that doesn't really have to do with this as much. This is just kind of a way we can get caught up quickly, and then it gets reduced down obviously over the time.
Yeah, we agreed to this program now, it's just a matter of how do we fund it.
Right.
And we have an opportunity right now to
Using a
Use-
portion of those.
do a
funds.
portion of those funds that we have.
I guess I was just wondering about the other departments.
So this is, the only reason that this benefit is being offered to the fire department is because they're all volunteer based. So it's kind of, that's why, and they haven't really had any of this in the past, and it's starting this new program so they do get a retirement. And the other departments, for the most part, a lot of it's probably gonna end up going towards public works because there's a lot of spots that haven't been funded in public works, whether it's like stormwater management issues that we have, and GIS is some, street maintenance. So that's where a lot of that funding is basically kind of looking at expanding.
Things to make their jobs easier.
Right.
Did those funds have to be used by a certain date?
They're annual.
So every year?
Every year
We
we
don't,
get,
and they can carry over?
and they increase. They can't, well, no, I mean, they don't carry over. It's basically extra shared revenue, so
Right.
you gotta
Whatever
expense
it
it.
is, they
Right.
get whatever they have.
And they can't use it to reduce taxes either. So
Mhm.
you gotta keep your staff.
I didn't know if we
Right.
could carry that over if we didn't do something
Oh,
with it this year when we receive it.
not with those funds.
Okay, that's
But-
what I thought.
I mean, there's other ways to get our, to save money if we wanted to.
Okay,
I think there's a lot of need, for some of those funds, definitely in the GIS stuff, which we haven't really had up to date since 2014. And it's really, really far behind, which we've been working on. And I think we'll kind of present to you guys kind of where we're at currently and where we see ourselves in the future to kind of do that. And I think it'll benefit you guys for planning purposes to be able to see geographically the issues we have, potential problem areas for water, sewer, streets, sidewalks, pretty much anything. So,
And it'll help us make better informed decisions in the future of where it went from.
so do you already know what we got this year? You said we got 92,000 for
we don't get it this year, it's next year.
next year.
And it's the preliminary estimate, but it most likely won't change.
Okay.
That's what was awarded in the Act 12 for us, so.
Okay.
So based on the, what's in our packet, the tiered, so the 2023, just so I understand, where is that money coming from this year? Or is that something we budgeted for?
So it's the 2023 gets paid in 24.
Or, okay, now I
So
need
it's
you.
for the year of 23 for the police department, or, sorry, fire department. But it's our fiscal 24.
Got it. So do you need a motion? Because we've already approved the program, but what
Right.
do you need
I
in
need a
motion?
motion for each of the point systems and the plan to,
Use a
the
tiered.
tiered catch-up for prior years of service.
Okay. Jack, are you gonna do the EMS too, or is Tracy gonna do that?
Tracy is, she's following our point system pretty close.
Okay. I'm just thinking if we approve the point system, you're kind of stuck with that instead of her doing something.
But
She
had her own-
did it.
She did her own point system, in there.
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, okay, so it's.
That's what's in the packet. The one that says EMS is hers.
Next page, keep going.
On the
So you
back
got the
page.
members?
Yep.
This one is EMS. Maybe Jim doesn't have that page.
Is this gonna be sustainable?
17.
Like, are you gonna get enough money every week?
Yeah. So basically, the one benefit is, I mean, the biggest thing for government is that first year, because once it's in there, it's easy, you don't have to raise taxes, you don't have to do anything. So once you pay for something, it's easy, especially when it only goes down for the most part. And it doesn't increase by a huge amount each year. So unless we hire on 1,000 volunteer firefighters, I don't think we're gonna have an issue. It is a sustainable thing, it's a small amount of money. And it would have been harder, like I said, if it wasn't for the Act 12 getting passed. It would have been probably something we'd have to push out over a 10-year period to pay for
Get
prior.
caught up, yeah.
Yeah, for prior services, but because of that, it really kind of gave us an option to,
And it'll plateau. I mean, right now we're
Right.
paying a lot and then it'll go back down.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we actually started out, was long-term, with
Right.
retirement.
Yeah. So Nathan, you said you need a motion for the catch-up tiered, and then do you need a separate motion for the points, or can this all be part of one motion?
I believe it could be part one.
All right, then I will make a motion, if no one else has any questions, for the service award program for fire and EMS, as it's presented in the September 21st, 2023 packet. The tiered is the tiered catch-up,
Yeah.
and the point system as presented.
I'll second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. C, discussion and possible action on Alonzo Park upgrades professional agreement with McMahon.
So this is the agreement that came out of, we already approved McMahon as the engineer for the project. This is for the park upgrades, splash pad design, and emergency generation for the well house and the lift station across the street for Alonso Park. So we got more, better lockdown pricing for them, which is in this proposal. And I have to say, it's actually less than where I thought it was gonna come in on. So, if this gets approved, then we can move forward with starting that project design.
I have a question about the archaeological report.
Yep.
So before we approve this.
Yep.
Has that report come to you at all? Has
It
everything-
has. So the report was finished last week, and they did not find any significant impacts. So we've already sent that into the DNR, which is a step that we needed to do in order to get the previously awarded
I figured you had that
$500,000 for the grant.
figured out, but I wanted to just make sure.
Yep. So, yeah, they turned it around really fast and didn't find anything of any significance.
Good. Do you just need a motion on this one as well? I will make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with McMahon in the amount of, is that the 71,000?
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I'll second.
Roll call. Grace?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. D, discussion and possible action on urban forestry board appointment. And I would like to appoint Jane Oak. And I would need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. E, discussion and possible action on resolution for public participation plan for a comprehensive plan.
So this is just the official participation plan resolution for the participation plan we passed last meeting.
Any questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-20-23, establishing public participation procedures for comprehensive plan update.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. F, discussion on wheel tax.
This was asked to be put on the agenda at the last meeting. The papers you kind of have in front of you is just kind of showing you two different scenarios that are fictitious, but they're potential project costs that we do have, but I wouldn't get caught up yet on those project costs so much, or the footage, or the amounts basically dedicated. It's just showing you basically the difference in projects, the difference in sizes, and how those funds potentially could be utilized based on either 2,000 cars or 2,484 cars. That number I got from the 2,484. I took our single-family residential duplexes and multifamily units and multiplied them by 2 as an estimate, and then obviously I did less than that amount too, is 2,000 to kind of get a little break as an estimate. You should also have in front of you kind of a list of municipalities that currently have a wheel tax, the amount that they're charging, and counties that do it as well.
So just some stats, there's 1,883 total townships. Out of that, 38 have a wheel tax. There are 72 counties. Out of that, there are 13 that have a wheel tax. Very small percentage.
So what is our, just the ballpark, what's our average that we spend on, that we end up having totals for assessing for a year? I mean,
Right. I mean,
discounting the parts that we put in to reduce their expenses, because that's not, are we at, I mean, what's our normal construction per year? A million, million five?
So per year, you can pretty much get for water and sewer about 250 if it's a water and sewer project. That's normally what we put towards a project. The rest of it has to either be covered by.
What is the rest of it?
Yeah, what's the rest? That's what I'm saying, what's our average?
I mean,
ballpark?
you could look at the Mill Street one, which is 481,000.
Yeah,
So then you would have pretty much the remainder of that, which also gets reduced down by obviously the CIP if we have CIP available.
but we're talking about what we can do. So this year we had what? We had Grandview, we had Mill Street, we had Cedar,
No,
we
so
had
this-
Grandview, Cedar Street.
Are you saying this year or in the past 5 years?
Let's just say this
Let's
year.
just say this year.
This
what did
year, we just had, we had a light year because we didn't do a full reconstruct. So we
Okay.
had basically Wildwind Phase 2,
Okay,
the Alleyway 3, and basically the Douglas Street. So those are the only ones we did this year, well, and the admin office here. Next year is planning for Mill Street. We have a water issue with Fountain Court as well,
Okay.
which is by both of these kind of estimates. In prior years, so like Grandview is kind of an outlier because of the sheer cost of it was around 700,000, but part of it was grant as well.
Yeah.
But the Cedar Street, I think, was around 380 in total.
yeah,
So then we applied 180,000 or so, would have been assessed to the,
So are we averaging like 500K total
So-
spend annually, and then we get 250 we budget to come out of, so we have 250-ish
right.
of that we have to finance some way.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, estimate, yeah.
Between 250 and 300 that we have
Right.
to estimate, that we have to finance.
What were you saying about Cedar Street?
When Cedar, well, I mean, that was the one we most recently did, so it was estimated, I can't pull the exact number out of my head, but I think it was around 380. So you took 250 off, the rest of it would have been applied to that construction, without using any of the CIP or any of the other funds that we have. So, and I think there was less than 20 people, more than 10, that went to.
It's like 100 and some odd thousand that's split.
Right. Some people, I think the highest person had around $10,000, but they had a large parcel footage-wise, and they had sidewalk and apron done as well. So I think on average they were around $4,000 or $5,000 per household.
so we're talking, we do, so we're doing like $450,000 to $800,000 a year. Yeah.
I wouldn't say
Projects.
800, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you got
450.
Grandview, which is 700,000 by itself.
That was a rarity.
Yeah, but then next year we got Mill Street, how much is? It's another one that's gonna be.
The Mill Street
Street
one,
is 481.
Mill Street, that number I took from the Cedar Street numbers.
Okay,
Based on footage, that doesn't mean it's necessarily accurate based on, because I mean, that had sidewalk in it, aprons, and it was only half the aprons. We might have more aprons or less, so until we kind of get those numbers from an engineer, it's kind of hard to get an accurate number. But I would say this is hopefully close.
I would say 500,000 is what we probably spend per year, and we budget like 250 or whatever to cover out of our funds. So that means we have to collect 250 from some other source.
so, okay, so even if you did the wheel, and I'm opposed to a wheel tax, but even if you take the wheel tax, you're still only, depending on what the numbers are for the year, somewhere between, 7% and around 20% of the cost. That's,
Right.
that's,
I think
that's making everybody pay. And if you can only pitch in 7%, so say that's the alleyway, right? So theirs is, 4,000 or just below 4,000? For round numbers, we'll say it's
Right.
$4,000, right? So then you're taking, $280 off.
Well,
I mean, because you can't apply it all to one, because that wouldn't
Well,
be fair
right,
to
but you
apply
have
it all to
to
one
apply
job.
it per year. So
Yeah.
out of this year, you would have 2 projects to apply that amount to.
But if you look at an
So
average
this-
year and say it's only So even,
Right,
even
each
if
year
it's-
is gonna be different, and it's just gonna be what it would be.
Yeah,
So each project, like Mills, that's why I showed these two comparisons, because
Yeah.
Falcon Court obviously has way less people. The amount is gonna cost more for them. They're at, normally with nothing, because there is no water and sewer that gets applied when you do a stormwater project and road reconstruction. Unless there's water and sewer, we can't really charge the utility. So in that case, we have a $100,000 project between 7 people.
yeah.
So,
Well, I agree,
you're
but
talking
there's
15
always,
grand.
there's always
Yeah.
an issue, but
Yeah.
like, if we
And-
looked at this year, though, instead of just
Right.
looking at one project, like, if we looked at, we had Wild Winds,
It's different subdivision, but
yeah.
I get it.
We had Wild Winds that we had to do, we had Cedar Street that we had to do,
No.
no, it wasn't Cedar?
It's
That's
just the
last year.
alleyway in Douglas.
Okay, so Alleyway, Douglas, and Wild Winds, right? So you'd have to split it across those 3.
2. Wildwind is a subdivision, and that would be, that's part of the developer's agreement. We would.
Well, I want you to explain that to people when they come in here and tell them we're not gonna use that, although, because they're paying for it too.
We,
That would be, that's a tough sell.
we've done it,
I understand, but that's a tough sell if somebody comes in here and says, well, we're paying the wheel tax, why are we paying the full cost of our road? Right, because, so, I talk to people in New London, and people in New London hate this thing, right? They're all complaining, if you ask anybody in New London, everybody in New London says, we got this bleeping wheel tax, right? And our roads are still, and there's no good word for it right there, right? And they're counting the numbers, and they're looking at the numbers saying, well, yeah, we collected $2 million in wheel tax. I'm sure those numbers are wrong. Somebody told me they collected $2 million in wheel tax, and they're like, look at our roads. And they're still getting assessed when it gets done.
right.
So-
And so there's a lot of people who are upset about it in New London, and
Yeah.
a lot of them just don't understand how it's actually applied. But I would say for us, it's not gonna fix your roads.
Yeah,
The only thing it's really a benefit to do is to reduce down special assessments.
yeah.
It's another tool you could utilize. So the way I see it is I would rather if it was in my municipality, I would rather pay $20 or $40 a year annually and have, if that year comes where my road is the one being reconstructed,
Know that you're gonna get some of the benefit.
I'm gonna get at least a little bit of relief, whether it's $3,000 or if it's $4,000. I think that's still helpful for that person who's actually having to front that
The
bill.
only thing it doesn't help though is the person who never has a special assessment on there and they've been paying a wheel tax.
But it also recognizes the fact that we all drive on
No,
on the
agreed.
majority of the
Yeah.
roads.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm pointing out that, you know, if we're selling it as a benefit because one day I might get a special assessment and I can feel better knowing that I got, you know, I am gonna get benefit out of it. I think that it's hard to sell that when in the time you live here, you don't ever have a special assessment put on your
Right,
roads,
I
right?
mean-
But at the same time, to that point, I mean, it is a budgeting thing, right? You know that this is a fixed thing, you're not gonna one day get a, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 bill. It'll be reduced because you're collecting something. Like, I get it, I understand it from a financial side, I am worried that there's not enough benefit.
And that might be the case.
You know what I
To
mean?
make that
The number
political
of
choice
people,
to, right.
yeah.
So I understand that. I'm just trying to lay out the
No,
facts as
we need all
much
the
as-
information, I get it, I don't know that there's enough benefit for people to say, yeah, I wanna pay, it's like paying registration every year, you know, and not know that I ever see anything from that.
$20.
Yeah, I got a question, Nathan.
But if you're
Maybe
gonna fund
maybe
any of
you
this, you're
understand,
going
maybe you
to-
don't.
Much more.
No.
So it's my
Same.
understanding that the county at some point could do a wheel tax, and if so,
Yep.
then we wouldn't be able to, but the county,
No, I
no?
think you still
No.
You
can.
could do another
That
one on
would
top of
be
that,
Looks
okay.
In
like some of these
addition
have
to,
both.
Some of them have both, okay,
yes.
You could always then repeal yours if you want.
okay.
But
So
yes.
if the county were to do that, I mean, that could be any street project anywhere in the county, and they don't, I guess what I'm getting at is they're not the ones doing any special assessment, right? Or
Yeah.
it's generally the municipalities that are doing it, yeah,
And maybe it would be only county roads.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Like, this is only municipality roads, and that's what I look at is, and I look at the idea of doing something to alleviate some of the special assessments, because that is a really big blow to people.
Right.
Yeah.
I talked to the mayor in New London today. He said it's a bigger headache than it's worth. He said it was put into effect before he was mayor. He said if he had to vote, he would vote no. He said just from the experience and the complaining and everything else you go through with the residents. So it is not a quick fix for us to take this on. Greenville does not have it, Grand Chute does not have it, just to
Greenville's
name
got a
it.
transportation utility.
They do not.
Yes, they do.
I
They just-
have
they
an
just-
email from Greenville today.
They just passed their transportation utility, which is different than a wheel tax. I'm just saying,
I
They
just got
passed
this
it-
from the village administrator. They have not passed it.
not a wheel tax. They passed their transportation utility over 2 months ago.
This
I was
is
at
what he
the-
said.
I was at the meeting.
Currently, the village of Greenville does not have either a wheel tax or a transportation utility. The village board did hire R.A. Smith Engineering to begin to create a
Right.
transportation utility for Greenville. The thought is to at least create the utility in case the state legislature begins to put restrictions on their creation in the future. The utility can be created, and it would be up to the discretion of the village board on whether or not they want to charge anything immediately.
Correct.
The thought is that at least it would be created and grandfathered in if the law changes. They have not passed it.
It's created.
It's created, yes.
Well, they
But
passed
they
it,
may
but
not,
didn't implement
they
it.
might actually
They
not
haven't
actually.
implemented
They're
it,
not-
and they,
yeah.
right,
They
correct.
just put it on their
I'm
books.
just
so
saying,
they
it's
can.
passed.
At the moment, they can
Right.
implement it,
Right, so.
but they're not currently
basically-
charging for it.
Right.
Correct. They're
Yeah.
waiting for the Pewaukee case because that's the only case that really matters because the Buchanan case had a ton of errors in it. That's why they're waiting for that.
Got it.
What about the town of Buchanan? I thought this was all up in the air.
The town of Buchanan's case was completely, they basically, do you wanna, you were the one, yeah.
Yeah, the Buchanan case, the Pewaukee case and the Buchanan case are proceeding on two entirely separate statutory theories. And the Buchanan case was essentially, to dumb it down, is like the more aggressive one, that if you would have been able to do it, would have provided a pretty solid fix for municipalities because it would have allowed you to get more money to go past what your normal levy limits would be. The Supreme Court said you cannot do this tax to exceed your levy limits. And in that case, the town argued that this is a tax, but we have an authority under this statute to do it. The Pewaukee case is saying it's not a tax, it's a fee, and so they're trying to accomplish the same thing with a different route. We'll see how it works out. There's some concern that even if you can do it that way, that you have to offset your levy a certain amount. So that one's still up in the air, but they are two different. They're attacking from two different angles, but trying to accomplish the same goal. So there might be some overlap, but just because the Buchanan one was lost doesn't mean the Pewaukee one necessarily will be. But that is the other one that's hanging out there. If the Pewaukee one's lost, the idea of the transportation utility is basically dead.
So my thoughts on this are, it's too small to reasonably, if you have to educate everybody that is gonna complain about it, and address every concern. I mean, the people sitting here are gonna be assessed, and then next year they're gonna have to pay a wheel tax, even though the wheel tax isn't gonna, they're never gonna see another assessment for 30 years on that, on there.
Mill Street, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, but,
How
and the
often do
people
we
who
wanna
got
keep
assessed
doing
in
that to
Wildwoods.
I mean, you're gonna have to do
And
it every.
so-
It's still, they're still gonna have to get
I
assessed.
have a
every-
question for
Yeah.
Aaron.
Right.
How would you rate our roads in the village? Does it seem like we're going to have projects?
I think we've been behind on some of our upkeep and maintenance on our roads that is going to lead to some more projects that need to happen in the near future.
And this is different from every other municipality
No,
in
it's
any
very
way.
similar, yeah.
A lot of municipalities cut back on road construction in 2008 and beyond, basically, was during that time. So
Due to
a
state
lot of them are
funding.
in the same issue where they're trying to catch up because of lack of willingness to go forward with projects.
So for instance, in 2018, according to the DOT, Hortonville has 5,600 vehicles eligible for a wheel tax.
No.
That was the number that
In
was.
2018, I'm just
Right.
saying, I think this was discussed quite a few years ago, and
The
I
bad
read the
thing
article
about
on it,
that,
and I would like to keep talking and
okay,
have a
and
succinct
then
point.
I will answer you.
I'm just, so, the article that I read from maybe 2015, 2016, when this was first being discussed, I think some of you were here. I think it was really close. I think you had half of the community in favor of it. I saw an 8-7 split, and that 8, I can pull up the article right now, but it was very close. So your voices are loud, and it sounds like you don't like it, but there's gonna be other voices of people that are okay with chipping in $20 or $40 or $60, or I have a huge camper, I'm gonna pay $20 to set it on my road and where I live. We're a community. I would love to be looking out for each other. If it costs $20.
The thing is, they take the zip code of 54944, and that it does not mean that those people are in the village.
That's where the number came from originally, was, so if you took 54944, but if somebody has a Hortonville zip, but they live in Dale, like Whitney Street in Dale is a Hortonville address, believe it or not. So they could then contact the DOT to then get that fixed. But how does that work, Nathan? Maybe you know more. How, like, so if something like that were implemented, is it just a blanket based on zip, or are they able now, with better technology, to zone in on residential?
I think you might get a few that
Mhm.
they don't live in the village that pay it, but I don't know if it would be as substantial.
Yeah.
Would they
as
use like
five.
election
Back in
records or something?
2018, I think the technology just wasn't as honed in now. But I think that was, like, I think of people who have a Hortonville address, but they literally live on Whitney Street in Dale. You know?
Well, there's a lot of people who have Hortonville addresses that call and
Yeah.
live in Hortonville. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen. I mean,
Well, your election records would probably be a better,
Well,
listing from a,
well,
an adult
it's-
standpoint.
If you're a
for household.
registered voter.
Yeah.
right, but
Can-
it's,
I can answer
Sure.
that question. If the person indicates it, they can indicate, there's a opportunity to indicate what municipality it is. If they do that, then it'll go to Hortonville, otherwise they take the post office address.
Like, I know when I
That's where there
paid
might
my
be a distinction.
registration fees online, it actually asked, this vehicle is in the village of Hortonville. I had to select village of Hortonville.
Right.
But so if somebody selected village of Hortonville, but they live in the town of Dale, then they would have to do some kind of request to get that removed. Is that how my understanding is?
I don't know how
Yeah.
to go about changing it, but I know it defaults to, if that isn't selected somehow, it defaults to the post address, the
Okay.
post office address.
Okay.
And that was what some of those stats were back then.
I think that's where that misconstrued larger number came from, was based on zip code.
But I think the point is well taken, even though the numbers may have been inflated because of the zip code. I think Grace's point to $20 a year per car, I think it would be, not a small, not a large amount would come in, but it would be something, and it would be a way to help with these assessments.
You could do
Spreading it out.
$10. You could start out with 10.
I'm sitting here with 5 vehicles in our driveway, so that would be potentially $100.
$100.
But $100 would help another neighbor that's getting an assessment as a collective value, that would reduce it. I look at these numbers here and think I would much rather a $4,000 or $4,400 assessment versus $11,000.
And one of your 5 cars might drive down Mill Street sometime.
I don't know, but I look at the impact, you know, when I look at 11,000 versus 4,400, you know, I think of, you know, the gentleman that spoke earlier, you know, that could reduce it at some way, some source of funding to help reduce that. And it's a smaller impact on everybody as a whole, but a bigger impact on the people that are trying to pay those assessments.
Except that this, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but doesn't this show that we potentially would be doing both of these projects next year, right? And we're saying that the 40 grand is going to both, but it's not. It would have to get split between the two. So you're
Correct.
not seeing you're not going to see the benefit of both of
Okay,
these.
so then, Okay.
The goal of these were just to show what it could do to a project.
If you're looking at one
As an
project.
example.
As an
Understandable.
example, so you could see what it looked like with like 4 or 5 people compared to, 12.
Okay, I
So
understand
that was
what
kind
you're
of the idea. I didn't want it to skew it one way or the other.
I
So
think
when
that-
you live on a county road or a state road, you don't pay, doesn't the county pick that up? I thought when they did Nash, no one got assessed.
Yeah, from my understanding, yeah, for the most part, depending on what else is done. So like Main Street is gonna be a different story. But anytime we do water and sewer, even if it's under that, it would be a lesser of a charge, because this county or the state, they're gonna pay for the road portion, and that's it. Anything outside of that road is usually just on the municipalities, so sidewalks, lighting,
Aprons.
no, well, aprons would, go to the
You pay-
homeowner.
Yeah, the homeowner.
Right, but, anything else other than water and sewer is, village is gonna take the water and sewer on.
So there's actually 4 people on this board that'll never pay an assessment at this time. I've paid more than
I
one.
anticipate
I've
that
paid
there'll
2
be an
already.
assessment when we.
Oh,
get
for
rid
Main
of
Street, there's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Because it's county road.
the street, they won't be assessed. But you have miles of water and sewer, well, a mile of water and sewer that's going in. You have a multi-use trail, you have sidewalks, lighting, everything in that project, which is estimated around 3 million in total, for the village.
I have
potentially.
150 feet of footage. When we're looking at how many feet
So,
do people have,
Main Street will most likely get assessed unless we get really lucky on a few different things with TIDs and whatnot, but they would most likely have a high assessment as well. But, yeah, Nash Street, unless we're doing work on a sidewalk, like replacing all the sidewalks and stuff like that, probably not. So technically, it would be a way to get money from them who don't necessarily have to pay towards special assessments as well.
I think with the current condition of the roads, I just think that we will be anticipating more scenarios like this, where people are saying, what's the special assessment gonna look like on my property? And did the village board do anything to say, we wanna work for you and signal to you that, yeah, we're gonna do something to soften, alleviate these assessments, just because if the roads were all in great shape and there wasn't gonna be so many projects, that would be a little bit different story. Maybe it would make less sense, but if we have roads that need funding and work done on them, more of this is going to happen. I guess my other question was how many homeowners are in the village?
I think you have it.
Yeah, that was in the packet, it's kind of hard to see.
That last sheet, the
Yeah.
Excel format.
I'll pull it up on the screen here. You have about 945 who are single-family residential. You have 120 duplex units, 182 multifamily units. So currently, anyone who lives in duplexes or that they don't own or multifamily units, you're not necessarily collecting anything from them with special assessments as well, where the wheel tax would collect from them.
So another point with New London, I think there is this, I think when a wheel tax is implemented, I think the assumption is that there's this pool of money, say $2 million, which we
Yeah.
know is
Yeah.
not true.
Right.
There's a pool of money, and then the city council is gonna then decide along with Public Works what to fix. And I think the better the educated on the subject, the better people understand. A wheel tax is just another source of revenue to help alleviate those assessments. And I think everyone hates a wheel tax. Nobody wants to be taxed, but nobody likes to be assessed either. And I look at that and go, maybe it's an education piece of it, and going into it with the idea that a wheel tax is this pool of money and Public Works is just filling potholes with it. That's not what they're doing. That's not what that money goes to. That money goes to alleviating some of those assessments and things where we have to press into some of our residents and say, this is your property, we need this from you.
Something they do in New London is every street that has been used, they use wheel tax on, they have a sign saying wheel tax used.
They actually did a really nice video too on how their wheel tax works and where that funds go and how they utilize it.
And everybody still hates it.
Everybody hates it, but
Yeah.
everybody hates
And-
assessments. It's why you're on the board, Jim, because of
Yeah.
an assessment. You didn't want to be assessed, and you started getting interested in what we did on the board and how the village worked and how that all happened. Nobody likes to be assessed. Nobody. Nobody likes to pay a wheel tax, but we have to figure out a way to help alleviate some of that burden on people. Because financially, that's a hit to people.
Isn't that where our shared revenue comes in?
And I don't completely disagree with that, Julie. I do disagree with what Nathan said, because the renters don't directly pay assessments, but the owner of the property doesn't just absorb the cost of that road.
No.
It gets passed on in raised rent and extra
Yeah.
fees. I mean, my sister has a business property up on Cedar Street, and she saw, because the owner of the property got assessed, they see the rent show up, they see the bill show up in their rent. Right, I rent a business property, and if it gets assessed, it goes directly on my rent.
Oh, yeah.
It goes right in my common area maintenance fees. I see it in my reconciliation at the end of the year. So that's not, even if they don't pay it directly, they're still paying it. And I don't completely disagree with you, Julie. I mean, I do see the point. I absolutely see the point that, nobody likes assessments, and nobody likes the wheel tax. But the point that gets to me is that the amount of money that we could add to a wheel tax it's a drop in the bucket for our expenses. And if you, I mean, just the difference that we made on the decision that we made with Douglas Street, trying to go with the county, we're looking at even with Nathan's estimates here, you're looking at half of that just in a way to try to stretch things. We're going to save potentially $20,000, right? So, and you're talking $40,000 just in a little decision that we make. It's such a small drop in the bucket, and then once you split it amongst whoever is going to be assessed that year, the small amount that we're going to impact their assessment compared to the amount of taxing that we're going to be doing to everybody, even though it's $20. But for somebody like me, I've got 6 vehicles plus 3 campers. I mean, I'm going to see,
In Hortonville?
Yeah, in Hortonville. So,
Just
I mean, I got kids, and it's not to say that I can't afford, I wouldn't pay it, paying my fair share, but I just got assessed. I just got assessed a few years back. And now, now somebody says, well, okay, well, you have more vehicles, because I have a summer vehicle, so I have my Wrangler with the top off. I know you have your convertible, right? So you drive it just a portion of the year, so now you're gonna pay for this vehicle, and you're gonna pay for this vehicle, and I'm gonna have 2 kids that are driving, I'm gonna pay for both of their vehicles. It's gonna be absorbed, this total, even though it's $20, it's gonna be absorbed very, very much unfairly on the families instead of the individuals. Right? So if you're single and you live in town, it's going to cost you $20 a year. If you're a family of 4, family of 5, family of 6, now you're talking $150 to $180 a year. So those are the people who have to stretch their money the most. And now you're going to take it. Now you're going to take the most from them and the least from the people who are single with a single income and usually very, very, very small expenses compared to a family. So the amount that's here, the amount that we would collect on it, I agree that it would, either way it's gonna people won't be happy, but I don't think it makes a big enough
Do you
impact.
put gas in your car every week of the 6 vehicles?
Yeah, that's how I drive them.
You could budget.
They have to put gas in.
Yep, you
Yeah.
could budget $20 for
Okay,
a whole
what, I'm
year.
not supposed to drive to work? How do I budget
It's
that?
$20 a year, not a whole year.
No, it's not $20, it's $20 a year for you. It's a lot more for me, and it's a lot more for a lot of the families in town.
Let it be educational.
Oh, yeah, that'll
I'm just
go
saying, I
really
think- I
well.
think you could
Get a family
budget
of 6 in
20
here and
I
tell
think
them, well, let's educate you. You have to pay $180 for those 6 vehicles that you have because all your
9
kids can drive,
vehicles.
right?
9
So,
vehicles.
yeah, I have 9. right? But you
How
can,
did
you
you
can
buy that?
educate that family when they come in here. We'll just tell them that, yeah, Grace decided you need to be educated.
But what, you know, I don't think you're being fair here, back and forth like that, but, the education piece would be good. We are a small portion of the community. Is there a way we can hear from more people? I mean, is there, because I agree that I think there's more people out there that would be okay with this. I really are. And I know there's
So-
people in New London that are probably okay with it. You know, maybe the people that speak out are the ones that disagree, but there's probably people that are like, okay, that's all right.
So you want to
I
do a
see you guys
referendum?
biting your
Well, I
lip there.
don't
There's a
know.
spot at the end of the meeting where you can talk. So if you can't talk now, but there's a spot at the end of the meeting where people can say stuff.
It is considered a regressive tax, so he is right when he's talking that it does affect families more. That's why I think
Oh, I-
some
yeah.
communities are
Mhm.
iffy on implementing these is because of the fact it's regressive. It's not based on the value of your house, it's not based on anything like that. So,
But one of the benefits to having more vehicles is the fact that you have to take on the cost of having those more vehicles. Trust me,
Sure.
you know. And I guess I just want to be really careful that we don't politicize anything when it comes to this. This truly is a very difficult topic because I've been on this board long enough to see it bubble up 2 or 3 times. I think this might be the 3rd time, maybe 4th. I don't even remember.
I think it's 4.
And it is just statewide. I've just seen such a it's just so political, and there's nothing political about this. This truly is just, let's look at alternative ways of revenue, and would it impact our residents? Yes, it would cost them more. Is it gonna impact those residents with special assessments? Not every single resident. I just think we just need to consider it, and I would love to hear more input from our residents on this. But I do not want to mix it with the public stuff that we're doing with the comp plan. That is completely separate. I
Oh,
do
right.
ever mix that up.
Yeah.
But it would be, I think it would be interesting to find out, and I don't believe it's a referendum, but I think it's more of an idea of it, how do we get that information from our residents without,
I think the
There's-
hard thing is, in order to really do it accurately, you need to at least give the education
Mhm.
so that they understand what it would be and what it wouldn't be,
Mhm.
to really see if
Yeah.
it's something they would want. And even then, I don't know, unless you're doing a referendum, it's really gonna be hard for you to really tell how many that, and then you're also, if it is contentious and it's 50-50, what do you do then?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, you're gonna probably, I mean, it's a political decision the board would
Mhm.
have to make, but you might have half the village pissed, and then,
the other
you
half
know,
voted
it's-
yes, but the board essentially is the one who makes that decision, right? Based on the referendum results.
if you would like to do it that way, yeah, I think it would be a non-binding referendum. I'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
look into that more.
I don't know.
But
I just think that there are over 3,000 people in this community, and we are 7.
My beautiful wife.
So here's a suggestion. Here's a suggestion. How about, can we put, so, I don't know, it's probably too late for the next election, but can we put a referendum item on the ballot? Non-binding referendum?
You can, it could be an advisory referendum probably.
Mhm.
There's specific guidelines and dates that you have to follow. I don't think it'd be in time, well, might be in time for February, if there's a February primary.
And is there an expense to do that?
No,
The
No?
round was going to be April, like if we shoot
right,
for
every
April.
I'm thinking like 70-some days it has to be in ahead of time, but I'm not sure on that.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of referendums, especially non-binding anyway, even binding ones, because I think that that's what we're here for, is to make the decisions. That's why we get elected. But, you know, I mean, it seems like there's some members here who would really like to see what the temperature of the village is when it comes to wanting to add a wheel tax.
The temperature you've gotten is one thing very different than
Yes.
maybe someone else. And so I think to be gauging an actual grouping of people, I think, I'm not trying to give you more work by doing a referendum, but I think the people who are opposed are generally the more vocal about it. And I just don't think that that's the right thermometer to gauge this temperature right now.
Is it gonna be worth the,
I don't know.
The
Could be a
amount.
whole new board next April too.
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, is it really gonna be worth the, vote? Or
I don't
the
know.
referendum or not? Cause I mean,
It still
at
comes
what
back.
threshold do you guys make that decision if it's,
Mhm.
so,
Or could we have some
Can't
type of
just
public
education.
hearing or
Something.
open, you know,
Well,
just to have people that have an opportunity to come and talk, you know,
Not looking for a show of hands.
People
per se,
don't
to
talk.
Put people to say.
Either they're totally opposed or totally for it. So, you know, you're either gonna get one set or the other. I don't feel you're gonna get both. It's like anything else. The ones that are opposed aren't going to speak out. They're just not. They speak out in private. That's why if you have a referendum,
Yeah, I
there
mean, they
they've
do.
got their vote.
I will say, I was trying to pull it up quick, I don't know now, so I'll have to do some more research. I know there was an effort in the legislature to stop the use of advisory referendums.
yeah,
I don't know where that
I think
that
it passed.
legislation is. I think that's was my thought, but I was not able to confirm it with a quick Google search.
Yeah,
So I can look into that and confirm that for you, but my thought is the same as Nathan's, where I think they stopped the ability of municipalities to do that to do with those advisory referendums. So I'd be able to get you a solid answer on that for next meeting, but just know that's out there, so you might not be able to do that even if you wanted to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Unless someone can find a creative way to take a poll.
well, I mean, we could also just kind of wait and see how next year's amounts come in at, and also see kind of, you know, where we're at with things.
Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, we can move on.
I think the one other way you guys can look at and just basically try and whatever we do to just keep the mill rate the same and basically keep increasing the CIP that way so that you have more funds dedicated to those road projects.
So if we had an opportunity to reduce the mill rate, is what you're suggesting is that instead of reducing the mill rate on property taxes, it would be keeping it at that level amount, which would then still be taxing people, but it would
Right,
be
but-
not as,
And it would be it wouldn't be a regressive tax. It would be, you know, based on your assessed value of your household.
so $20 might not look so bad after that,
Well, depending on the person, but
and the value of your home.
it also probably wouldn't cause as much potential problematic issues in the village, where that's the only thing I get worried about if you start turning people where you're for or against it, and
Yeah.
now you're creating these.
Political divide. It's
Right,
political, and that's
yeah.
what I don't like about this, because I don't want a wheel tax, but I also understand that there's a need for that revenue source. So,
And like, you know, one of the things, I mean, we did get that shared revenue in, which we had planned somewhat for certain things with it. But there is also potential to add more in to those CIP funds. And we have been increasing that. That's why this last time it was at 75,000 for the CIP, for each year, is what we had for the project. So it was a total of 150,000 for all the projects in that 2-year span. So there is more, we have been increasing that. And that's just basically applying different, not necessarily doing certain things with maybe the parks or whatever, and applying it more towards the road portion. So, and not even the parks, it's just in general. That was after the last time our debt went away. We kept the mill rate the same and allowed our debt to kind of go away.
so that's good to keep in mind, Nathan, thank you, when we're looking at whether or not we would reduce a mill rate
Right.
for property owners, that perhaps maybe we just keep it in this, so they're being, yeah, okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll move to G. Any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? Anyone? Okay, we'll go to 11, report of village officials. Jane?
I don't have anything.
Can, we just ask that when we have a public works, public safety, public facility, that we could have the minutes included in the packet to vote on?
You don't approve those minutes. The committees approve those minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, but we do need to
But
make
it
sure
would
they
give
show
us,
up in the committee reports.
it would give us
We had a public safety
information.
meeting.
The committee report is supposed to be done by the chairman of each of the committees and basically giving a summary of what occurred,
Yeah,
not the minutes.
yeah, but the last couple committee meetings weren't listed on the
Right.
village agenda for the committee reports.
Correct.
Did you
So-
submit a report?
And just like the
Well,
planning
they can
and
give
zoning,
verbal-
if we
they can
could
give
have had,
verbal reports.
Yeah,
if we would have had the minutes, it would just be nice to read through them then, if nothing else. Cause it's on the, I mean, you know, like when you report on the public safety, we could just have the minutes to read through them. In case we did have questions, when like, say, Jim's reporting on public safety or, you know, Julie's reporting on public facility. That way we'd have it in front of us to read during the meeting. If that's, is that too much work or,
Well, if the minutes are done, right?
If the minutes are done, is that what I
Yeah.
was thinking?
Yeah.
so. Does anyone else have anything for Jane?
I have a, well, I suppose it's, I'm not sure we should discuss it, but there's a, you really can't, I don't think you can include the minutes in the packet until they've had the next meeting and approve the minutes,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
True.
We could always copy, like I have the minutes from public safety, but the committee reports don't list public safety because we have a public safety meeting. So, I mean, you could always do like a copy and distribute them, but they're not approved yet until we have the next public safety meeting, so they really can't be included in the packet and published.
True. Can it say that at the top, not approved yet?
Draft, but
Draft.
but we
Okay.
would not be approving them of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could do that, put it as draft.
Yeah, because like the 9/14
Yeah.
public safety, those minutes aren't on the web yet, so they're not
Yeah.
ready. You know?
Yeah.
That,
That's
put the
just a
watermark on
draft.
there.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be perfect.
Because they're not, we don't, they're in the packet, but we don't approve them till the meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we'll go to B, Director of Public Works, Aaron.
My report is in the packet. Just one other thing that's not in the packet is that I met with MCC today and our village engineer, and they're looking to start the project here in the village hall, widening that driveway entrances here the next week or two.
When's the,
So it would be, their idea right now is to start here, then do LE3, then finish the paving.
Any questions for Aaron?
what's the new date for opening the bypass? Do you know?
November 3rd.
Yeah,
November
November 3rd?
beginning of November.
And is that when we're switching to stop signs? Or?
Yes.
I see the signs up on the post already. So is, when they open that, well, because they've got them, they're just flipped closed, so you see
We've
that.
always had those.
Those
are always
Those
there?
are for emergencies when the
Oh, okay.
lights are out, the fire
Oh,
department.
I guess I
puts
just didn't
those
notice
on,
until I looked
believe,
for 'em.
Or the PD.
Because I knew it was gonna go to a stop sign, so, and when does that, is that
Well,
going into
the
effect?
county reached out, they wanted to do it now. I told them that we kind of discussed waiting until after the bypass was open. I didn't want to do that and piss a bunch of people off who are
Especially
trying
school
to
and whatever.
deal with the construction and everything, so it'd be better once the bypass is open. So it'd probably be that next week. We would, I talked to them about putting the four-way stop at Mill and Main, and then the four-way stop, they would just turn it to flashing lights at Nash and Main.
Are they planning to follow through on the assessment thing on the other lights by Quick Trip?
No, they gave up on the quick trip lights. They were gonna keep those.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be
Perfect.
discussion on those placements?
Uh,
Any, will it come up for discussion again?
for the placements of the,
Like Mill and Nash?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was to kind of test them out, and then I think they should be doing a speed, or a traffic study in those areas, and we're gonna kind of go physically observe them during kind of the high traffic times too, and kind of see how it's working. If it's not, I'm sure we're gonna get calls on it. I've gotten one so far from the article. But the reason we test it is so that we don't do it and then have to deal with the repercussions after.
That's another reason for waiting till the bypass too, so you don't skew the results of your test too.
But the final decision is the county's decision, because it's county road, right? We can argue it, but they get the final say, right? Because it's a county road.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both county roads technically.
Right.
It's an intersection
I mean,
of
technically
M
it's up to
and
the
double
county
J.
100%, but
They
they
take
would
ours into
probably
consideration.
listen to us if we kind of argued that we wanted the lights to stay on and
Okay.
we didn't want the four-way. The four-way stop in Millen, Maine was kind of staff's, and myself and prior department heads for the public works idea about trying to slow down the traffic in that area.
In downtown area.
So that was kind of one of the goals, was kind of making it more
Similar to the
consistent.
College Avenue, making them all flashing reds rather than,
Right, because it's actually faster to do it that way than to have lights and stop.
Any other questions? We'll move to C, Police Chief Chris.
My report is in the packet also.
Any questions for Chris? And D, Ally is out, Library Director. Do you have anything?
Board meeting on Tuesday.
Okay. And then E is Attorney Mike.
I do not have a report.
Okay. F, Administrator Nathan.
I sent out my report, and then just basically kind of continuing looking or discussing with certain developers, and trying to figure out some of our TID stuff, setting up our annual TID meeting, and kind of was dealing a lot with going over the SAP program stuff prior to that meeting, stuff like that.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay, we'll go to G, Building Permit Report. There's none in the packet. 12, Communications and Miscellaneous Business. A, Black Otter Lake District News. Jane?
I have nothing other than I see that the harvester is back, but I don't know any details.
They've had it running.
Yeah.
From what I know or understand, that it has been working.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's a plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cross our fingers.
Streets
B, Hortonville Hortonia Fire District News.
I don't think our next meeting is until October.
October 11th
That's October 11th.
at 6 p.m.
I'm just gonna come up on my calendar, but I don't have anything. It's just kind of-
C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News. There's none in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association. Jane?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. E, Senior Activities Committee. Pat?
We met last week. We're continuing to finalize things for Senior Autumn Fest, which is October 10th, as you know. There have been 2 sessions of the Planning Ahead series, full class. It's been very well received. We played bingo this past Monday. Potluck is the first Monday in October.
Any questions for Pat? Then we'll go to 13, comments and suggestions from citizens present. Does anyone have anything?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say about, Kim would also say a little bit of 331 Mill Street. I just want to say like the wheel tax, you know, like I understand the idea behind it or whatever, and how it's always like, you know, like the good, bad, whatever, people don't like it. The only thing I have to say is if, like that, if you have one vehicle and you pay $20, or if you have, well, like I do, multiple vehicles, you pay more, and I understand everyone pay like their fair share, but I just feel like if it's set up like a wheel tax, how like I have 7 vehicles, how I have to pay $140 and someone else only has to pay $20. So I don't know if like a wheel tax would be the way to do it, if there was another I don't want to say, like a way where the money would come forward, you know, to offset the special assessment, but I don't think like the wheel tax as it is, like if it was just, like say, you pay $20, pay $40, pay whatever, if it was just as your, I don't know how to break down, like as your family or whatever, I said, the only reason I don't, whatever, like the wheel tax is because of that, because it like singles people out, you know, like according to like your lifestyle or whatever, you know. So, I don't know, that's all I gotta say. I don't think it's fair across the board to everybody, so. That's all I
Thank
got.
you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I think we have to look to the state for funding for roads. State has grants for virtually any municipality project. You won't get them every year, and wait till next year or whatever. Apply for the state grants, a lot of them.
Thank you.
I keep forgetting to ask back on LA 3. Did anybody contact Allegheny County on this alley? Just curious,
In regards to,
the alley being done, because they're owners, right?
no.
Who owns it? Who owns Schwann's?
Oh, Schwann's?
Yeah,
We're gonna have to eat that cost, because they're not gonna get it to us.
but Allegheny County owns it, right?
No, they can take it. They don't want to because
So
of the
we own it.
Schwann's, no one owns it. Schwann's Oil owns it technically. The issue is, they haven't paid taxes in over 5 years, and at that point, the county can take those properties. The issue is, they don't want to because of the liability underneath,
Right.
and we could take it as well, but we don't want the liability underneath. So, unfortunately, the village will probably have to eat that cost of that portion of that, the special assessment.
Any other comments? Okay, then we will go to 14. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned, 7:31.